was here, I was sort of thinking I just need to find... I'm a one-man band, a bit of a loner, so all the stuff I do is by myself. And it's a great way to learn, but it's a really tedious way to learn, if you know what I mean. So I sort of thought maybe some sort of club to just share and contribute, or just learn as best I can, and found this club on the net, and it seemed to tick all my boxes, particularly the narratives you've got. They're just fantastic. I don't shoot any of stuff like that, but I thought, wow, that'd be a really great way to learn. So reached out, met Paul, had a coffee. I realised we share something in common. He calls it gas, and well, I also have gas, but not that sort of gas. It's called gear acquisition syndrome, and I'm pretty bad at it. I just buy stuff all the time. So I ended up talking to Paul about a couple of things I got. So this thing is called a CPAN arm. Has anybody heard of or know what a CPAN arm is or does? So who's got a slider? And at least 600 mil, maybe 800, maybe a metre?
3 metres.
3 metres, right? So you know how hard it is to sort of set them up. Tripods, probably 2 tripods, or a really, really heavy-duty tripod. And I just saw it, and I thought, man, I've got to get one. So I bought it that night. And it was from B&H over in the US, and it got delivered maybe 3 weeks later. And so what it does is it's clearly a slider, right? That's nothing big, but because it's a slider and the way it is, I can just easily do pushes and pulls, right? No big drill. But because it's the way it is, I can now do verticals. Okay, so I'll just do that again. So it's a CPAN arm. Works best on a reasonably sturdy tripod, but I'll show you how well this packs down in a moment. But basically, I've got this really, really old Manfrotto sort of 3-way head, and it just works perfectly. So, as I said, you can do perfectly straight slides. That's about 600 mil as a straight slide. Obviously, you spin it around. You can do pushes and pulls. That's not a big deal. But you'll probably notice that I can now do some really nice vertical ones. Again, that's obviously a lot better than a slider. But what really got me about this thing is that just by twisting this little dial at the top, I can actually, and down the bottom, I can do what's internal and external arcs. Sorry, if I just tighten that up. So basically you can spin the camera around the subject, whereas you get a whole much better perspective. Or, if I take it the other way, I can do sorry, that's the internal arc. Getting it better now. See, can you actually see that? Maybe if I can't actually spin it around, but maybe if I do it this way. Can you see how the perspective? And for me, I'm just always trying to video something or other. If it moves, it's really easy to video. If it doesn't move, I'll still take it. But for stuff that doesn't move, I can just get these just amazing sort of shots. And the whole thing, quite literally, if I leave that there, I've got that can pack down into like this tiny little bloody camera bag, right? And the tripod fits there. The other thing I just wanted to explain, has anybody got one of these Manfrotto tripods? You know what they're like? They're sort of reasonably popular. That obviously comes off, it's a center counterweight. But the way I worked it out is that I can, if I'm going out doing a bit of a shoot, basically all I have to do is pop that around, pop this back on top, and of course I've got a proper tripod set up. So it gives you heaps of variety, and of course that'll pack down to literally about from there to there, which is pretty damn good. The last bit about this guy, and I think maybe that's a bit that interested Paul a little bit, if I just put it back, I'm a bit of an electronics freak, so I go off, if I buy anything photographic, I'll find a way to motorise it, if that makes sense. So even with lights, I've found a way to put a pan and tilt head. You know the LumiCubes? Anybody know the LumiCubes? The little tiny little square lights? So because I'm into electronics and all that, I went and found a really cheap way to do a pan and tilt head, motorised and remote controlled, so that I can sort of remotely control the lights. Why? I have no idea why, it's just because I wanted to, I guess. I shoot weddings sometimes, and I guess the whole point is when they're doing the dance, I try not to be intrusive with these sorts of things, so I'm trying to be really discreet, so just having some really small sort of lights that are quite powerful, that sort of suits me a lot. Anyway, the bit that I wanted to show you is, I'll spin it around this way now. So, motorising. Is anybody familiar with the Genie Mini? You know them? So I found a way to actually, I won't demonstrate it. If anyone wants to see it later, I will. But basically with this little bracket and this little attachment, I can now, instead of being purely manual, if you can imagine you want to try and do a time lapse somewhere and you want to have that sort of inner arc, outer arc perspective that I was talking about, well, one, you can't do an inner and outer arc on any sort of straight slider. You can certainly have the camera as a two-stage sort of, what is it? You can rotate the camera as you're sliding across, but they're quite expensive. So with this guy, if I just undo this, I'll show you. You can sort of cheat a little bit. So, as I'm rotating the Genie Mini, so it's obviously motorised itself, you control the app, basically that thing will just move it along. If you put it into time-lapse mode, it'll stop, pause, shoot, stop, pause, shoot, stop, pause, shoot. So now I've got a totally motorised slider, fits in a bag, and it can sort of just take absolutely anything. Does that get you guys interested, or is it just me? Okay.
What is the recommended camera weight?
Oh, this will take 5 kilos. Yeah, and it's, if you see it, it's extremely robust. Like,
Does that need a different counterweight? 5 kilos?
so the counter's only there for, I'll just get rid of this because it's, I just wanted to show the motorised part. But I'll redo the counterweight, re-explain the vertical. The counterweight, it doesn't actually come supplied with the counterweight. I ended up having to make this a couple of weeks ago. So it's basically I drilled a hole through a weight, a 3/8 rod that you can buy from Bunnings. So if I actually get this guy back again, the movement I do, so the camera's facing this way, you obviously rotate this so that it's going to be vertical, right? So the movement I do is just like that. And it's obviously, the camera's going to make it a bit heavier, but not having the counterweight puts a little bit of extra weight here and it doesn't slide as smoothly. So I live near a cemetery. Cemeteries are full of statues. I'm just getting the absolutely most amazing shots. A lot of dead people, yeah. They don't give me any trouble, fortunately. Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to show you is that, has anybody heard of a Rolocam? Never heard of that? Okay, so you just heard me how much I'm into sliding and motorising and being able to do internal arcs and all that. So in my pocket here, would you believe that I've got something in my pocket that can do everything I've just told you, but not vertical? And that's this thing. And this is only $300. That's $1,000. This thing's called a Rolocam, right? So you just mount the camera. It'll take 3 kilos on this mount. Again, it's controlled by an app. It'll do continuous movement. Not sure if you can see it.
It's got a motor too.
There's a motor in here. That's the drive wheel. These are free wheels. And basically, you just change them to any angle you like. And again, it'll do any sort of arc. It'll go full 360. It can just go 100 metres if you want. So I go around town and I find these places to shoot. I do time lapse with it, so I can sort of, how can I put it? There's a couple of places around town that I saw. So you know, Darling Harbour, where the seagulls, the really narrow, the sort of, the really shallow water. that's a really beautiful long stretch. It's really smooth sort of tiles. So I end up doing these running long time lapses for about 10 or 15 metres.
It goes on the ground, does it?
Yeah, it goes like, so literally any flat surface, off it goes. If we've got time, I can show you, but basically it just runs along. And again, we'll do continuous motion or stop, pause, shoot, move, pause, short.
Where did you get it from? Like, what's it called?
It's called a Rolocam 2. It's called the Hercules 2, I think. Rolocam H2. Rolocam.
Oh, right.
So this was a Kickstarter. The first one was a heap of shit. I was tempted to get it, but it had really bad reviews. That was about 3 years ago. And I think about, well, again, I was probably the first in Australia to get one of these because I've been helping them debug their app, Android app. Works brilliantly on Apple, iPhone or iPad.
You got it online?
Yeah, I bought it from them directly. It was $300.
Oh, right.
In fact, I got it on sale as they just released it. So I got it for 250 Australian. But basically, for travel, you can imagine sort of sitting in a cafe somewhere, you just got it sitting on the table there, just taking these most amazing shots. And again, for me, I got really shaky hands. I just set and forget and off she goes. So again, all this stuff, if you're interested in it, I'll have it there. I'm not sure how the time's going. Can we just show the... So I've got 2 videos to show you as well. Is this like... a Zoom H5, so I run XLRs, yeah. Whatever, into that, and then it will also record with a shotgun. So with sound, I'm still learning, to be honest. I did another one from just recently.
Why so many for the one? We don't just do like a backup and to test them out. If we have one person speaking, why so many mics?
For that one, I was actually just using the lapel mic, and that was actually from a phone app. But I did another one, it was an interview style cooking segment, it was just 2 people. But what I found was that when I was editing in post, I was getting all sorts of different dynamics going on, and I could actually pick which mic was best. And then if I sort of synchronised 2 of them together, I could get a much better sort of sound coming through. So as far as I'm concerned, I'll always run with, I have 2 mics on booms shooting down. The more the better.
Where did you get the music?
That stuff I was... has anybody ever heard of... Oh, man, it was brilliant stuff. I stopped the subscription. I have to try and think of it. It's some software that you can download, and then you modify the tempo and the melody. Filmstro, yeah. I ran that subscription for about a year, and that was definitely a Filmstro clip. And then the first one, which was the little donkey donk type thing, one of the other guys in the team got that one, so I'm not sure where he sourced it. But I did make sure it was proper copyright, so I wasn't going to get pinged on that.
Were the microphones linked up to the camera or like an external?
So for that, her audio was quite simply Rec Pro. It's an app that will record on any sort of phone. Since then, I've sort of bought more gear, if you know what I mean. So the most recent, that was done about 18 months ago. The most recent one was literally everything wired up to the Zoom H5, and I really did find that helped. So you might say overkill, but I just had so many options. The sound coming out of the camera. Actually, the mic on I got the GH4 as well. It's pretty shit for sound, but the mic on that, it's not bad. You can actually use it for stuff. Anyway, you're going to ask me some questions, but I've crapped on anyway. So.
Well, thank you very much for the microphone for Mike's on the desk.
I have a question about what's it called?
CPAN ARM. So it's really mouthful. It's made by a company called 9 Dot Solutions.
9 Dot. Solutions,
yeah. Really weird name. They're Danish, I think.
We'll put them in the newsletter or on our website.
Yeah. It honestly, in fact, that's the other thing. apparently you do teams, you do productions. I'm a gear fanatic, so whatever team I'm on, it's all about.
I think you have to join my team.
So what I'm trying to say is that I'm happy to bring the gear to work on stuff, but I'm not prepared to lend it out because they're all my pride and joy, if you know what I mean. But if I'm in a group working on stuff, then hey, let's all use it type thing. So.
Great. Okay, well, very pleased to have Peter join us, and thank you for showing us some unusual gear.
I've got the Weevil Lab over there too.
Yes, that's the latest gimbal. Do you want to show it quickly, or afterwards?
Bit of dicking around.
Okay. We've all seen cameras, but some of these gear I think are pretty special, so that's really great. Just a couple of questions. You found us via Google, is that correct?
It was. So like I said, I really enjoy being a one-man band. It's a lot easier to be in control of what I'm doing, but the whole learning experience. So all those things I just showed you, I can see 1,000 things wrong with them. And it's for me to learn, I have to learn the hard way. Whereas if I'm doing a shoot with somebody and they're, oh, well, what would you think about that? What do you think about that? Or any sort of constructive advice, well then that's why I'm here, because I figure I can contribute, but I can also learn.
That's right.
Yeah.
And as we saw Brendan, he had a bit of a bigger team than one person. And as we sort of try to improve our standards, we do so with teaming. And that's one of the great things about having a video club. And that's what I find most useful. That I learned a lot by working with other people.
Yeah.
So how long have you been involved with video?
Only 4 years. So I was still working. I was asked to shoot I've always been a photographer, just love still photography, still do. That's why I went hybrid, so I'll take that on travels or anywhere and still take lots of great stills. And people bag them for stills, but it's good enough for me, if you know what I mean. So I was asked to do a work video, a training video, somebody robbing a bank or something like that. I work in a bank, right? So that just...
Can we rob your bank?
No, it'd be really hard to rob. I work in the security team, actually. It'd be really hard to rob a bank. We've got the lowest... We've got the lowest bank robbery. We've got the hardest offences. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that that just got me into it. Like, wow, I actually bought a little camcorder because I had a Canon 550D, so it's all from the old Canon days. I wasn't going to shoot video with that, even though it's not bad. It was all right in the day. So I bought a little camcorder, and not too dissimilar to that, actually. And then, oh man, I just started it. We got the GH4, got the GX8, got the GH5, and then all this other shit.
So what would you say is the biggest challenge, and how did you overcome it the recent times in this area?
For me, the challenge is I'll go out every weekend and shoot flowers down at Centennial Park or something like that. That's pretty bloody boring. Or I go down to the cemetery and I take pictures of graves and statues and all that. So, and I've done that for 4 years pretty much every weekend. So getting opportunities to try and apply what I've taught myself to something real. Now, I'm very lucky that I've made the connection to somebody that wants, a YouTuber, if you like, that wants some output. And so my learning curve went from like that to like that, because you're under pressure. And again, that's what brought me to this club. So doing your little narratives, I can just see that whole learning opportunity of trying to pull something together, a car ad in 1 month. Yeah, just what we're going to learn, or what I'm going to learn from being involved in any one of those little projects. That's the challenge, trying to find something challenging better than bloody shooting grapes.
Yeah, well, that's great. We're so glad that you joined us.
Oh, thank
And I think what, as a club, we're trying to do ourselves is to start to focus on the storytelling and the creative aspect, because nowadays you can get onto the internet and find out a lot of technical tutorials and reviews, and I suffer from GAS, which is gear acquisition syndrome, so I'm a fellow sufferer, but I'm trying to teach myself to not get hung up on how many pixels my camera can shoot, or what, you know, the extra stop dynamic range, and consider how we get the story across, how we grab the audience and deliver the goods.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all about
Great
the
to have you on
content.
board.
Thank you.
Hope that you'll, and I know you'll contribute greatly, and hope that we can learn from you and you can learn from the others.
Oh, look forward to it. Love to meet you all too.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you.
As a special gift, if I give you some of these, we've got some.
Oh, we've got more now.
You got some?
Yes, you gave me 5.
Okay, well, let me introduce new cards, which on the front, you can write your own name, email and phone number, optional, but it's got a contact detail for the club email address. On the back, it has a QR code which can be scanned, and it basically just loads into your phone the contact, and they can just email. The email comes to the president, who at the moment is me, but we got email addresses which are now constant. So another year might be a different president, but the address will be the same. So these cards will still be valid. Okay, now it gives me great pleasure to award the winner of last year's Voti, which is Video of the Year, and the documentary, and also Special Techniques, was won by Harrison Storzaki. So, congratulations. Now this is a returning cup, so you hold on to it for 12 months. So you can't keep it. And we also got a couple of certificates which you can keep. But well done. Harrison is a very new member. He joined late last year, so it's great to see him already doing so well. And one of his specialities is animation. So if any of you have that interest, then grab him and work together.